The cost of living crisis in Australia is a lie. It is fake. You shouldn't listen to it. Now, should you believe that the cost of living crisis in Australia is as bad as it is? Stay tuned to today's video as we go into that. Now, for you guys who aren't familiar with me or the channel, I moved from the UK to Australia when I was 21. I spent 2 years in Australia. I've also lived in New Zealand and obviously the UK. So I've got a very good idea of which country is the most expensive, which one has the worst cost of living, etc., as I've worked in all three countries as well. Now, Australia supposedly is going through a massive crisis with its cost of living and housing as well. There's a bit of a rental crisis, so houses are very expensive and hard to get. It's definitely hard to get a house in Australia at the moment. There's no doubt that the cost of living is increasing, which, to be honest, in terms of Western countries, where isn't it increasing? And there is definitely impacts for young Australians, for families, for people who are living there, residents. There's no doubt that some people in Australia are struggling, and I'm not denying that it's not an expensive country to live in, because it is expensive for sure, Australia. I'm not saying it's not expensive, because it is. But the reason I say the cost of living crisis is fake is because after living in New Zealand and the UK as well as Australia, I've generally found that out of the three, Australia does have the best cost of living. This is mainly due to the high wage that they pay. New Zealand is more expensive in my opinion, especially for food, and they don't pay anywhere near as high as Australia. Same with the UK, maybe a little bit cheaper than Australia, but they definitely don't pay anywhere near as high as Australia. So whilst Australia is a very expensive country, they do make up for it with paying probably the best wage that I've ever got paid, particularly like weekend rates, overtime, public holidays, etc. So whilst, yeah, it is an expensive country, from my experience, the cost of living is not that bad. So if you're a traveller, a young person thinking of moving to Australia, I definitely wouldn't be put off by all the comments and everyone, the news, whatever, going on about the housing crisis, going on about the cost of living, because, I'm not being funny, you'll struggle to find a Western country in the world right now which isn't getting more expensive. I feel like every country in the Western world is going through a bit of a cost of living crisis. But for me, it's definitely not as bad in Australia as it is in other places, so I wouldn't let that put you off. I was still able to save a very good amount of money in Australia just from working a normal job, by the way. Like, you can actually get a better job and start earning a lot more money than even I did, which I thought was pretty decent, to be honest, for an average job. So don't let it put you off. Get yourself to Australia. I highly recommend it. And yeah,